welcome to our new webinar. We are here in Searchmetrics headquarters in Berlin. And our today's topic is quite interesting. It's something different that we did before. We are traveling in our virtual time machine through SEO history. I was not that good in history, but luckily I have really cool guests with me, and who would be able to speak better about what's going on in SEO from a long time ago than our founder, and I think person who got all of us inspired to join Searchmetrics. And this is our founder, Markus Tober. So yeah, thank you for joining us, Markus.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, Svetlana.
Thank you. So I'm not really good in history, but I'm good in SEO. And I think you are much better in seeing the full picture. Yeah, maybe even better in history, I don't know. But definitely seeing the full picture, because you experienced everything and you are one of the pioneers in SEO community. So I can say you've seen it all, right?
I wouldn't say seen it all. Yeah, but I'm super excited to have this webinar with you, because when you talk about SEO, and it's like talking about like your life, because we do SEO since such a long time, so it's a big part of our life. And when you go back and reflect what happened, there are a lot of different, let's say, times, you know, like SEO used to be like this, and then it stopped, and then it kind of like, you completely need to kind of like change and, you know, develop new skills and new things. And SEO is so different now than it used to be in 2001. I think we both started around 2001. And this is also when Google started in Germany in 2001. That's funny, right? I mean, Google started in Germany after I started SEO. It's like, oh, okay, great.
So you caught it from the beginning.
Yeah. Google was just one of many search engines, because in the beginning, SEO used to be, you have to submit the website or the URLs to search engines. You know, there were programs where you could submit the domain to hundreds of search engines. That was the first task for an SEO, right? Yeah. And Google was just one out of many. And Google actually had a landing page where you could submit your website to Google to make it known.
And this sounds really familiar, because when we look at article directories, this is also the way how we started. Because after submitting websites, we started ranking, we started helping many different companies to rank good, using many different tactics that are not now on the market. And I think it's a good tip for someone who is starting their SEO career, because I get these questions a lot, and I believe you probably get it even more than me. How do I start, and what do I learn to become a good SEO? They cannot learn just one thing and become good SEO, right?
Yes. And this is maybe something we should spend a little bit of time on. SEO used to be very tactical, very much driven by multiple tactics that you could repeat all over again. I mean, maybe every day. Björn even said yesterday his first job was link building, and he placed 150 links each day. That was his objective. And the day after, he saw already the impact. It's like, oh yeah, great. And this is what SEO used to be. And this is maybe what we should describe as, like, let's say the first age of SEO, you know, because in 2001, when we started, till 2004, there was the first really big recognizable update, a Florida update, spamming and link building and white text on white background, and, you know, font with one pixel size and stuff like this, or hiding text in iframes and all these things. That was very common. And I mean, everybody did it. And then Google made the first update in 2004 and penalized all these tactics. And I totally believe that the first update of Google, I mean, it wasn't the first update, sorry, there were updates before, like the Denver update, Jagger update. But this big update was where Google used the quality raters, I believe, to kind of like train the algorithm and very manually kind of like penalize websites. Whereas now Google, if you compare to now, Google uses machine learning and training models to do this without that much user input. I think there's still user input needed, but not that much anymore.
And we remember the first toolbar for PageRank. I think it was kind of connected, because I believe that Google launched it in 2001. So this is exactly the beginning. And all of the SEO people could actually measure the strength of their PageRank.
Yes, and people totally got addicted with it, you know.
Yes.
They used the PageRank as a currency in the end, you know, because when link building, which is still now a thing, and maybe there will be questions from the audience about link building. I totally believe that. I know many people in the UK that do a lot of link building. Yes. We will cover that likely. And in the early days, let's say this, the PageRank was driving the value of the link. And if you had a high PageRank, you could kind of like charge a lot of money. And that was like, yes, like something that's so easy, right? You bought a PageRank 7 or 8 link and you paid maybe 500 euros for it per month. So you gain PageRank -1, which is very common. So if you bought a PageRank 8 link, you got a PageRank 7, and then maybe you sold your links for 200 per month, but you sold 10. So you paid 500, you got 2,000. So that was a pretty high margin thing. So it was like a scalable business. And this is something that's definitely not working anymore. First, because we have no visible PageRank anymore. Then second, PageRank is not that relevant anymore. And second, link building is not working in that way anymore as it used to be in the early days.
So maybe we could explain a bit about link building, because I believe that maybe some of the people who joined us don't really know the difference. What is link building now? Because there are still, as you mentioned, many agencies who use it and who work around building trust and pointing to the website and trying to send the so-called link juice to the website and ranking better. And of course, authoritative website in specific niche who are ranking to your content actually do work a bit still. So they're not that high influence ranking factor. But when we look at the past, we had article directories. I remember we had demos. Do you remember demos?
100%.
I spent so much time trying to find the perfect title so I get approved on demos, and I send link to the website. And then I remember Wikipedia had followed links. So everyone could try to become article writer or editor in Wikipedia to actually get Wikipedia link. And I remember from early days in SEO, I was able to rank websites really, really high with just getting one link from Wikipedia. Yeah, and many different ones. And if we go back into the history, we saw, for example, forum posts or blog comment posts with links. And a lot of SEOs started like that, posting links in forums, posting links in comment boxes and everywhere around just to get their website ranked. And some still do it. And this is why I want to dedicate a few minutes to explaining, does it work?
Link building? Oh, what do you mean? So, okay, funny is that we just got a question from the audience here about link building and if it's still relevant to have money keywords in their link profile, or is it now okay to just have a link profile without money keywords in it? So coming back to your question, Svetlana, and the question from the audience about money keywords and external links, I would definitely say link building is something that's important, but out of a PR perspective. So when you do PR, it means you want to promote your service through public relations with influencers, with maybe tech magazines or magazines that are relevant to your business. And this is where link building actually is a thing, because when they write about you online, you could always ask, hey, why don't you put a link or place a link to me? And in that moment, I wouldn't even look at if it's a follow or non-follow link. I wouldn't even look at is it a money keyword or not, because if it's natural, it is natural, and then everything happens automatically. But important is when you do link building that you look at it from the PR perspective and not from how many links can I get. Like, oh, in the past, companies used to work with agencies in terms of volume. Like if you buy me, or if you get me 10 links per month, you get 10,000 retainer. Or if for every PageRank X link, you get this, and for every link like this, you get another amount. So you should go away from the volume perspective and look first at, do I get links from authorities? Do I get traffic from these articles? Are they permanent? Because often when you do PR, it's campaign-based, and often after the campaign is over, the content is going to be deleted. I saw this quite often, seriously. When I looked at backlink profiles on the deleted links, I saw a lot of really high valuable links on brand sites, like big magazines, and they disappeared because obviously the PR department negotiated a deal where for a certain amount of time they got this article or maybe some promotion, and then the link disappeared. And this is where, from my perspective, it hurts more than having a lesser authoritative link, but it's permanent. And this is how link building should work. And coming back to this question about money keywords and external links, I wouldn't really care about money keywords and external links. I would only care about money keywords if you only have money keywords, because then there's something broken, because then you don't get brand links and something is broken with your brand strategy then in general, and you should kind of like focus more on your brand then.
Yeah, this is definitely true. I would agree with you, because I remember working with publishing websites that sometimes publishing websites had homepage editor, and on the homepage of a website you have article that is paid, that is PR article with a link, but after 2 days or article was gone. Yeah, they don't even have to delete it. It ends up in some sub category that no one visits ever again. And of course, value of this link decreases rapidly, and they can catch on freshness and actually get some exposure. But this is not something that is permanent, definitely.
Yeah.
So thinking about links, we could say that what matters is actually engagement, mentions,
yes,
and having influence around in your niche or maybe in authoritative websites, but not with the focus of getting linked to strengthen your SEO value. I also remember one funny thing, and this is exchanging links. Do you remember this stage of SEO history?
Oh,
I give you a link, you give me a link.
Oh, this is where I made a lot of friends, and I still have friends based on the link exchange stuff. Still, it's pretty funny. But there was another question for link building in 2019. So let's cover this quick, and that brings us back to links exchange because it makes sense. So, is link building still relevant in 2019 was the question, and I would say 100%, because Google is a machine. I mean, Google needs to find links. Google follows content. They read the links within the content. They follow these links. They're still based on this random surfer model. And so links are important to very quickly make your content known to Google, make your content more relevant, because if you're on a relevant page, you definitely get discovered quicker. So link building is still relevant, but like we discussed already, in a different way than before. So that's why if you are new and a startup, or you have new content, link building is definitely key. And link exchange could be a key too, because imagine, I don't know, you have a startup. So there are many new startups, for example, in the food business, right? There's so many new startups in Berlin, for example, that some produce a new protein bar and other one produce a new vegan chocolate bar and stuff like this. When you do link exchange, I mean, in that moment, when you on your brand site, for example, look link to, I don't know, you link to GQ.com to their food section, for example, I mean, probably. Because it makes sense, and people that are on your startup page kind of like need to read more, and you do not produce the content, it's cool to link to them. But why don't ask them that they link to you also when they like your product? I know it sounds like you link to them, they link to me, and it's a link scheme, and Google should penalize it. But this is not how I mean it, because if you create value for the user in that moment, then it is totally natural, and definitely Google sees the link. And then, like, the old link exchange could still work, but in a different way. I would always think about the user first nowadays, instead of thinking about link volumes or PageRank.
Yeah, I can give another example. Maybe it will describe also a bit better everything that we are talking now. Think about e-commerce website that is reseller. If they link to manufacturer of a product and manufacturer links on them as authorized reseller, then it's also kind of a natural link, because you are giving more information about where your product is coming from.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you are endorsed by manufacturer to sell this product.
Yes.
And this is completely natural link, but it's also kind of reciprocal link, I would say. And I think our answer relates also to another question that we received from Oliver. And he asked, how valuable is having a Wikipedia article for the business you are trying to rank?
Yes, so that's a very good question. I totally believe that if you have, as a company, a Wikipedia article, or for your personality, or for your product, or for something like this,
For brand,
it is highly valuable. So not because you get a big ranking boost. I believe that Google definitely recognized this because Wikipedia is so well organized, it's super hard to get a new article. I mean, even for Searchmetrics, and we are not a new company, we're not a super small company. I mean, Wikipedia editors, they're all the time rejecting articles about Searchmetrics. And we are not a fake company. I mean, we are a real company with real people. And because it is so hard to get in, at that moment when you get in and the information is valuable, first, it brings a lot of credibility to you because you're a true business or you have great products. And at the same time, Google's, even if it's no follow links, Google's recognizing the links on the page. So there were a lot of tests that many SEOs did on is Google following these no follow links? And yes, Google definitely indexes content that's within a no follow link on Wikipedia. So that's a fact. How much PageRank is passed, nobody knows, but it's about like credibility in that moment. And the other thing I believe, which is super important, Google reads fractions out of the content from the Wikipedia article, puts this in a featured snippet.
Yeah, in another graph.
When people have a question about who is the CEO of this company, and you have a Wikipedia article, Google, takes this out and puts this into the knowledge graph, or as a typical visible feature snippet out of Wikipedia, and that's valuable too.
Exactly.
So this is where you can get higher screen equity or equity in general on Google, and become more, get more traffic and become more visible.
And this is how you build trust. I think when we compare history and now, it's all about trust and being natural. And there are really no ways that you can fool Google, I think. Yeah. And this is when, so I would like to take a look about, talk a bit about Google updates and what has changed from the moment we got first Panda update, first Penguin update. So a lot of the websites got penalized. We also had a manual penalty because of thin content, spammy websites. You mentioned link schemes, hiding content, also, and many different things. And also what we've seen as a pattern, so both Panda and Penguin had a lot of iterations. Yeah. So it started in 2011, 12, and then they had many different iterations. Yeah. And we had this discussion before webinar. We as SEOs, whenever we change things and we disallow links, we try to clean out content, try to clean out layout of the page. We needed to wait for another iteration to come to actually see the results. Yeah. Did we do it correctly? And then with the last iterations of Penguin and Panda, both are kind of included in indexing, and they became ranking factors as a live ranking factors. So whatever you do, also you can see changes quickly, but on the other way, you need to be really careful because you will be caught quickly. Yeah.
You mentioned Panda, and thanks, Svetlana, because that I think for everyone who's attending, you still have questions around content quality and content creation. So maybe we go back to this first Panda update or Panda updates in general, and talk about what have changed and what was the reasoning behind Google and making these updates. So before the first Panda update, there was a normal business to create content for every keyword query that had enough search volume, let's say 10, 15, 20 searches even per month, because if you could produce content very cheap for a long tail keyword query and the content was good SEO optimized, you could really predict the traffic you get, and then when you amortize your investment. So there were companies like Demand Media with ehow.com and many others who kind of like invested money in this business model, and so Google became pretty much kind of like slammed with a lot of thin content websites because they understood SEO well. So SEO means creating content for a single keyword query was very normal. So it means for eHow, for example, I made a lot of analysis on eHow in the past. They had over 500 articles of how to get pregnant. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, I forgot about eHow now.
It's super crazy. More than 500 different articles about one one topic, nice topic. So, and this is what Panda has changed. Because in that moment, when Google introduced Panda, I think with a lot of manual help from quality raters again, but Google kind of really looked at is content kind of like holistic and describing something kind of like good enough, or is content just optimized for a simple keyword phrase, and then you have a lot of repetitions and no real value in the content? And since the first Panda update in February 2011 and the second one that was in August 2011, SEOs really needed to think about, okay, how can I create one article that covers the topic a little bit broader as a whole, having 500? And this is cool because for the user, it created a lot of more value, because then you have everything on one page. You can kind of like have like maybe even from top to bottom of the funnel, because you can have everything on one page. And this is where I believe when companies nowadays think about content, they should remember what happened with Panda and all the iterations and come to the point like, okay, if we create content now, it should be holistic, long-form content, but not just driven by multiple aspects of a topic. So this is what I really like in SEO, because SEO then became from a very tactical, mechanical work down to a strategic work, because SEOs now, they need to think about the business, the user, maybe the different kind of like cycles in the customer's life cycle, kind of like a thing for companies. And that's actually pretty cool. And this is where I still see companies doing it very wrong, because they still stuck in this very old thing. They create content for keywords instead of like clusters. And then they have this thin content and they hope they can rank well. And I often talk to SEOs on many conferences. They often tell me like, hey, I have this content, it's great optimized, and this company has this content, they rank better, they make more money. And seriously, yesterday I had this conversation with someone. His solution was writing more content, like scaling more content.
This is always the case.
No. You have to delete content. You have to get rid of stuff. It can't be the solution to create even more content. It will just make things worse.
And we have many great examples with our clients. For example, we have a case study with Flegede where they deleted 95% of the content and they outranked their competition, and they grow in hundreds of percents of visits actually. So this is something that is definitely dominant now. But you made a really good introduction to other updates that I would like to mention, because content was one-dimensional before, and we all wanted to get keywords and everything. But then we got into Hummingbird update, we got into RankBrain. And if we go even a bit more in a history, it all started with this latent semantic indexing, which was, I think, in 2000 something, on the early days of actually Google updates. So Google already started experimenting how to find semantic topics, how to relate content, how to find more like a topic exploration than just targeting keywords. But with Hummingbird and I think with RankBrain, the whole search changed. Yeah.
And there was also one moment where search changed dramatically. It's not related to a specific update, is when Google moved to HTTPS and took away the keyword. Because you had all these updates like Panda, Penguin first, and then Google took away the keyword information out of Google Analytics, and you couldn't see how much traffic for a specific keyword is on your website, or the conversions on a keyword basis. And then you really need to think about, oh shit, what is my product? How should I write content about it? That changed a lot of things, and maybe we highlight Penguin a bit. You did link building in your past, right? You did?
Yeah, I did, but I wasn't really expert on link building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you had a lot of penalties?
No, I was actually expert in removing penalties. This is something where I really grew my SEO career. So I knew everything about link building, but I was always attracted to technical SEO. And I must say that I'm really, really happy that it's like that now. We are dealing with user experience, we're dealing with content creation, and actually targeting real user instead of search engines. Yeah, so let's talk about Penguin updates, because I do have experience, but as I said, from the other side. I would say that buying links like number of links instead of values was a thing before first Penguin started hitting. And then I remember, all focused on authoritative links. And I believe that somewhere in our audience, probably there are people who are listening and thinking, yeah, but I still want to get these authoritative links from educational websites, from governmental websites, from, I don't know, large publishers. And yeah, this is something that Penguin definitely tried to stop.
Yes. Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, on many SEO events, conferences, meetups, whatever, it was always, I mean, before the Penguin updates, also a little bit after, is people were always mostly interested in the next trick, how to get a link from an authoritative website. And I still have all these kind of conversations in my head about, oh, I found this way to get into Britannica.com, which was one of the very big encyclopedias in the UK. It's like, how can I get this? Or there were people who actually really made it to get a link from nasa.gov. And I mean, these kinds of things. And it's also crazy that one of these links, just one, could kind of like change your whole life, you know. It could kind of like, for a money keyword and the keyword that drives a lot of business, you could go from nowhere to position one if you got a link from this. That's why before Penguin, people really focused on how can I get this one valuable link, and which was a problem too, because if one guy got a super interesting, very valuable link, there were already a lot of link tools like Majestic, or also at Searchmetrics, we had a lot of very early ways to analyze backlink profiles, and then many other people wanted to get these links too. It's so funny. It was like a reverse engineering of link profiles, and then you got the same links, and then the original link was diluted, and then because of this, there was a link scheme, and then every link was diluted, and you got even a negative effect instead of a positive effect. And what Penguin also changed is that people were, I mean, I still remember a lot of conversations were scared of Google updates.
Yes.
They were really, really scared, because if you have small to mid-sized companies that heavily rely on Google traffic, especially organic traffic, they couldn't maybe afford a lot of other marketing channels. They were really scared. And I have still a lot of emails when there was a Penguin update and they were not affected. They were super happy, you know, like, we've made it. And also other emails where seriously smaller companies, maybe with 30, 40 people, after updates and they did a lot of crap stuff, they needed to fire people because of Google updates. So that also changed the whole kind of like perception on, okay, Google update could be really bad. It could really hurt our business. And that was when Penguin was introduced in 2012, still something for many years. Not anymore, because it's still baked into the algorithm now, but people changed, and that's actually a good thing. And this is maybe where when you think about link building and bad links, it could really hurt your business if you do it wrong still today. And there was one question from the audience about, is disavowing links still a thing in link building 2019? And sure, disavowing, I mean, Google, I heard Google wants to, or is it already take disavowing out of the search console? I still believe it's important to kind of like keep track, because it's also like being, you know, like cleaning your house. You should always know what's going on. You should kind of like keep things clean, but you shouldn't spend most of your time on, you know, disavowing links or doing things like this.
And sometimes it's not even a fault of the company, because links, you can receive actually negative links from your competition or from someone who is just spamming your content. We saw this spammy techniques now with some of the clients, that spammy money companies or like gambling companies are literally copying the same website and using even schema work to mention and relate to the original website, which is, for example, insurance website or something that is really relevant in the industry. And we have copied spammy websites who post links constantly, and then clients need to clean it out nonstop. And there is no quick solution for that still. Especially if they got affected by Penguin, there is no quick solution or quick win. We still need to use the SOL files.
Yeah. yes, and even if Google takes the disavowing tool away from us, we still need to keep track of this because we need to understand how is our SEO health, and the link profile is part of it. That's important. So we have another question from the audience about the recent Google update. I think there will be more questions anyway about the recent updates. And this question is about that with the recent Google updates, we've seen SERP change radically. So with one website taking position 1 to 8 with a lot of duplicate content, and even they have a poor hreflang tag integration. So that looks like a Google, let's say, problem where Google overvalues certain parameters they baked into the new core update. And the last question here is from the same person, is Google going to solve this itself? So as we all know, Google is not very transparent and not very communicative, and often says bullshit. So BS, I'm not saying this word, BS, where you already know, okay, they say this, but they don't do it or whatever. So, but in this case, I believe Google is solving this issue when there are duplicate rankings for one website that has then provided duplicate content. Google is going to change it because Google is also interested in diversity in the SERP. And when Google sees the user signals, it's very unlikely that the typical CTRs or other things will be will make Google happy for these kind of like problems when one website takes position 1 to 8. Or if it's a heavy branded term, maybe Google is very happy with the CTRs or the user signals because that's what Google the user expects. So I think Google is fixing it on things where it makes no sense, but Google is definitely not fixing it when it's heavily brand related. But this question, I think, is more related to Google has an issue because of the poor hreflang integration, and the website ranks with the .de.at and .ch domain probably. That's going to be fixed very likely.
Yeah, we can see a lot of fluctuations in Google, because I remember having this specific problems with some clients, and then we can see that SERP is changing. So Google is definitely implementing things and experimenting how to make it better. And of course, it will not be better right away. And of course, there are still some things that we see that jump in, but usually they correct it really fast. This is at least my experience looking at the poor content. And also we can talk here about internal cannibalization, which is maybe not related only to country level domains, but also to the content itself.
Yes.
Because we see a lot of it still in Google search results. And when we, for example, recommend to clients that they really need to take care not to have internal categorization, and what we see now also in quality rater guidelines that are constantly updated on Google, they definitely use CTR as a signal. So we want to make sure that people understand that even having good rankings from position 1 to 8 with the same website but different content and leading to internal localization, this is not good in the long term.
Yeah. Yes, and content anyway is a good point. There was another question from the audience about, is it still relevant to have content, so text, on category pages, for example, on e-commerce, on shops? Because as we remember in the past, it was important to create a lot of text anyway, and you hired companies like TextBroker and other text companies to create a lot of text. So this is a very good question. So I believe text on category pages is still highly relevant if the text supports the buying decision. So for example, if you go to a category, men's jeans, right? So people still search for men's jeans. Maybe they don't know exactly what they want. Maybe they don't know the brand they want. So the searcher then expects like support from the website. So you land on this category page for jeans. And if you now have content that supports the buying decision, like, hey, are you looking for different jeans types? There's the skinny type, the regular type, and whatever type. I think then when you have this content that's very supportive, I also would recommend that you have parts of this content above the fold that people understand there's this supportive content, and maybe you have a link and then you kind of like jump below the fold or below the products, and then you can kind of continue. I 100% believe this is really valid. Or for example, yesterday I searched for a table for my living room, and it's the same. I mean, there's so many variations and styles and stuff like this. And if a website supports me with content and maybe drawings, I don't want to, click on each product and look at each product and look at the price. First, I want to have like support, like buying support from the website. And this is where I really appreciated a website where I found content. And to wrap this up, sorry for this long monologue, to wrap this up, category text is important because imagine you go into a store and you ask for, hey, can you help me with tables for my living room? The sales guy in the store will kind of like tell you something. Yeah, what do you have? How large is your living room? What kind of color you want? Do you want to have wood or glass or whatever? And this is when you think about this is the content you should create. This is how you should kind of like approach category text.
Yeah, on e-commerce websites, we also seen a lot of SEO text, especially placed on the homepage, that it is really arguable if we count keyword density, is this really keyword stuffing? But when we read it, we definitely know that this is not meant for the user.
Yeah, this is content you should avoid. I mean, yeah. every content you believe is just created for the search engine, or even, I mean, we know websites, they have, if you look in the HTML source code, you see it says SEO footer. You know what I mean, right? It's like, oh, great, thanks. It's the SEO text, totally irrelevant or hidden or in the sidebar or whatever, wherever. That's something you should avoid, but you should definitely focus on creating content.
But let's talk a bit about user experience, because when we look at SEO through history, except of the updates that were related to so-called off-page SEO or our link profiles and on-page SEO targeting thin content, we see increase of updates and fixes of many different things related to layout, because we had several layout updates. Then we've seen intrusive interstitial update. And we see that Google launched several UX playbooks in the recent period. So they're giving us signs that we should focus more on overall user experience and user interface.
Yes, but that's a very good point, because people also wanted to know from us, do we have information about the latest Google update? Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, it's from my perspective, all about, or let's not say all about, mostly about user experience. So all these leaked UX playbooks, you should definitely go ahead, because for some certain industries, Google has separate UX playbooks. There's, I mean, for example, if you're in the automobile industry, I really like the UX playbook for automobile stuff, or there's one for health and stuff like this. So it's really cool, because this is where you have a lot of soft factors where often SEOs fail to argue with their bosses, because bosses often want to have facts like, okay, make a technical SEO analysis, tell me how many errors I have, tell me what to fix, tell me how to do this, tell me how to kind of like write and content. And user experience is something soft. It's measurable because you see the user signals, you can measure them. But because you do not have all the same factors or KPIs from your competitors, it's very, very hard to compare and to make good decisions. But this is where I believe SEO is becoming more product management. I see also a trend that many SEOs, they get a new title, SEO product manager, especially in the US. I see this more often, and it's more common than here in Europe. And this is where the latest Google Core update, from my perspective, focused. So I studied, for example, the winners and losers, and I'm going to have a talk next week in Munich about it. So especially in the financial and health business, where there are keywords where people kind of like expect quality from Google. Like when I search for, I don't know, headache symptoms or financial planning, I want to kind of like invest money, and especially nowadays when you get no interest on your bank account anymore. This is where Google wants to make sure that the quality is high. when you have a bad user experience, Google can't make sure that you're happy with what Google gives you. That's why I compared the winners and losers, and it's so funny because in the financial space and the health space, I saw a lot of kind of like changes and impact. And when I looked at the winners and losers, often pages, they look very similar, except the loser page, for example, has a gray layer and a newsletter, a kind of like a newsletter subscription interstitial that kind of like bothers me because I don't see the content. I see, oh, I can sign up for the newsletter, but I'm not interested in this in that moment, and maybe I just bounce back to Google instead of looking for the X button. You saw me, that's so funny. With Svetlana, I was talking about this before the webinar, and out of the sudden, the website just, I wasn't kind of like showing her loser or winner page. The website did exactly this, and I was pissed. You know, it's so crazy, and this is where user experience becomes more relevant. And I hope that SEOs can become more powerful in organizations to take these arguments and talk to product managers or become a product manager to change things, because every conversion optimization expert would say if we take away the interstitial or the above the fold kind of thing, they would lose money. But they never make the equation, okay, what could I gain? And this is where SEO is complicated, because when people ask you, okay, when we do this, Svetlana, how much traffic we gain? And you can't. How
much revenue will we lose? This is the question that we have from our clients.
But the conversion guys, they would say, oh, we won because we had 40% bump or increase in newsletter signups. So we make money because email marketing is a big thing. But this is where it becomes complicated, and SEO is kind of like with the new Google core update becomes more UX based. Because I analyzed winners and losers and loser pages, and also when I look at the content, it's actually really good content. But stuff like, like slow website, that's one thing that's important, and kind of like distracting the user from the real content. That was the two big things that I have found as the major factor for being a loser for the last update.
Yeah, when we look at the EAT, or so-called medic update that happened they started in August 1st last year, it was more content related. So we could see that there are some differences, and we could see that definitely UX has a major role. But I think now with core update, we are comparing websites that have, as you said, completely the same content. And there is some bits and pieces that are different, and usually this is user experience. And for example, we saw a lot of websites decreasing in traffic and visibility related to user-generated content. Yes. This is what was definitely covered by this latest update that happened just a few weeks ago. And what we've seen is that these websites weren't hit by EAT update, so their content was kind of approved. It was not that bad, but definitely all of them who were working on improving user experience, but also placing tons of things on above the fold because they want to make money. User-generated content, their business is making money from ads, is making money from banners and affiliates and so on. And they got hit. And when we look at Quora, which is maybe one of the largest user-generated websites, Quora wasn't hit. But when we look at Quora and our user experience, it's really simple. Yes. Like it's basic HTML page where we can scroll and we can read there. There is no JavaScript interactions. There is nothing. And not a lot of ads. And not a lot of ads. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And Quora didn't decrease. And this is maybe like a comparison that we can do because, we definitely are seeing now a lot of winners and losers. And I think what really helped in dealing with speed and determining the performance of our website is also Lighthouse, Google's add-on and addition in developers tools, where we can use Lighthouse audits to see how the website is performing, but not only overall, like we used to test it on Google's page speed test. We can see all specific motions that are happening during the process of loading time. And we can see what kind of content is maybe hidden for Google, or suggestions to use, lazy loading, to do asynchronous loading of JavaScript sessions and so on. So we can say that Google definitely gives us more and more insights.
Yes, but it's more it's harder for an SEO to come with a very specific suggestion, like it used to be in the past. Like,
definitely,
hey, you need to remove these links, or you have to change this template, or you have to put the keyword in a headline. So from these tactics, we go further and further away to improving now the user experience, which is something I see as a big challenge. It's a very big challenge for SEO. I also have seen some companies who couldn't really jump on this trend, and they, instead of doing more SEO, do other paid media things now. But I truly believe, because of the competition, and as we all know, when there's some advertising channel and it works, it's going to be more expensive in the long term, as we all know from AdWords, where the CPC increased, from social media ads, where the cost per acquisition or cost per user acquisition increased. This is normal, and what always stays there is, making good SEO helps the whole company, and this is where I believe this challenge is definitely there and will maybe increase. But there's another question from the audience here.
Yeah, it says, first of all, thanks, Christian, for sending the question. Question is, in terms of user experience, can you give a customer too much choice on your website? Having a scrolling banner on a homepage, for example, thus giving the customer too much information led to a negative UX?
Yes. So thanks for this question. So this is what I try to mean with analyzing the winners and losers. So when you give the user too much distraction, the likelihood that the user bounces back to Google or goes to somewhere else is very high. And this is something that Google definitely takes into account. So everything that you have that distracts is going to hurt you. And I've seen this on many user websites that not just have a lot of advertising above the fold or are being slow. Also, the choices they give the user are very high, and the winners, and it's so funny, the winners often are leaner, have more white space, are easier to read, have a larger font size. So there are definitely more things where the user can focus on and keep the user on the page. So that's why too many choices on the website could be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I can give just one more example of one of the large brands where we worked with, and their user experience was so bad because advocating SEO in a large company is really hard, especially if there are just few SEO people depending on many, many different departments along the world. And of course, changes are not happening that fast as they would want. But when we looked at their search engine result pages and tried to simulate user flow, we realized that from the moment you get information about a product to the point where you get to a shopping cart, we needed 7 clicks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And what we discovered as a result is that Amazon started ranking for this brand. So each time when you type a brand and most famous product or new relaunch, you had additional keyword Amazon. And this keyword query with Amazon was actually, I think, 10 times larger in search volume than a brand with product. I will show you this example after. It was really, really affecting. And this is just an example where we can see how negative user experience and negative experience that we offer to any visitor, preventing them from buying and getting information quickly and participating into our website, no matter what business we do, can lead to also being taken away from Amazon or any largest brand.
Yeah, because others, they make it better.
Yeah, exactly. We have another question.
We're happy about all.
We are really happy about.
Yeah, nice.
So if you're correct and the latest update is UX-based and webmasters need to minimize distraction to the user mainly above the fold, if webmasters rectify the on-site issues, how long will it take for the website to be recalculated by Google? So these are also differences between previous updates and updates now.
Yeah, very good.
Very
yes
good question.
And no.
Okay.
So thanks first for the question. It's a very tricky one because we already said that Google baked in many things into the live calculation. And Google made sure that they can kind of like very quickly see fresh content and updates and kind of like rank this way quicker than it used to be in the past. But the funny thing is, if you look at the core update in the beginning of August last year, and the core update now, and there's
timeline
of 9 months in between, many pages that won in August 2018 at the core update lost now in this update. So coming back to this question, there are some patterns that Google is obviously revising and working on that then kind of like changes or reverts an update they made and then it reverts back. So that's something that can happen, but I believe when companies start working on fixing issues like too many ads above the fold, the website is too slow, maybe kind of like improving the user experience in general, I believe very quickly you see the impact because the user signals improve. Google will kind of like recognize this very quickly. Then you will have a positive trend. So it's not like in 2011 or 12 when we had Panda and Penguin that there was like a stagnation or flat line, and then with the next update you had a big increase or big drop. It's a little bit different, but still you see like, you know, Google made changes in August and they made changes now, and it's funny, winners and losers are like comparable, but it shouldn't be the normality, I would say. I believe Google is very quickly kind of like making their update or changing their things when they learn that people improve user experience and stuff like this.
Yeah, we saw also with Matic or EAT update when it happened that first iteration punished a lot of websites. Then with the second iteration, different websites were punished, but the other ones started running. So Google is definitely experimenting. I wouldn't say that anything is permanent, but always think about the user. This would be my recommendation. Because above the fold content that cannot be loaded properly, or banners that irritate user, this will affect your click-through rate. This will affect your bounce rate, your user experience on the website. And even if the bounce rate is, as Google states, it's not a clear ranking signal that something is going on wrong, definitely you will lose visibility and you will lose keywords because people, for my case, if I see huge pop-up nowadays on mobile, there is a really low possibility that I get back on this website.
Yes.
Unless it is really important, like my bank or something that, you know, like the website itself. But if I want to read the news or if I want to buy something and I had this huge interstitial or anything that annoys me and that is bad user experience, of course, I will decrease in visibility and rankings, definitely.
So there's no question, there are more questions, but there's a comment.
I like this one.
Yeah, that's nice. So Google can't make their mind up. That's how it feels sometimes when it comes to updates. I agree. So I also see sometimes that when Google makes updates, there's some things that were, or websites that were affected that shouldn't be affected. But I believe it comes through Google's testing on a smaller audience or smaller basis or keyword set, the impact, and when Google feels it is good, they make the larger update, but I think the collateral damage is maybe a little bit there that Google couldn't foresee. But what we also have seen, and I think Svetlana, you can confirm this, is when Google makes updates, they partially roll back a couple of things. Yes. Not the whole updates. It happened also that Google sometimes rolled back the whole update. That's rare, but it happened. But also we've seen that's why after an update, and you see this in our visibility, there will be some fluctuations on some websites where Google kind of like partially rolls back things. And sure, this is where Google can't make up their mind, but I mean, they have billions of queries every day. I mean, not everybody is going to be happy with the results all the time. And
largest percentage of queries are completely new. So Google, so Google is trying to test and make it better. But this is definitely, I think, also someone from Google, I'm not sure if John Moore, but someone in the last days also mentioned that there are so many ranking factors. And if they, definitely, John Moore stated it, that if you, for example, have a really bad linking profile, but your website is excellent, it offers something that is really valuable for user, valuable content, very valuable user experience, and famous brand, they will not be hit by an update, for example, or they will not be punished. And this is maybe an extreme example, but definitely think about your website as a whole and have holistic approach in SEO. Because if you have one thing that doesn't work and you have 9 different things that are really, really good, and you grow your experience from user point of view, you grow your visibility, then you must have sustainable traffic. So even if impact happens, it will not happen this bad that it happens to others. Because usually when we see bad above the fold content and structure of the website and websites being hit, it's not the only thing they do wrong. We see from keyword perspective or query perspective, we see a lot of cannibalization. We see a lot of mixed content, not really clear structure. So even if the content is good, structure is bad, user experience is bad. So it's always several of different things. It's not just one.
It's not, and please don't get us wrong. We talk that much about user experience. SEO is much, much more.
Exactly.
It's the technical implementation of your content and everything you want to offer for the user. It is how you do business. So for example, when you have great content, but you have the by far most expensive product and people won't like you and don't stay on your page, it's not going to fly either. If you have just JavaScript or whatever, Flash maybe on your site, it's not going to work either if you have great content. So there's so many things that you really should SEO now is as the technical part, the business aspect, and the marketing promotion aspect. So it all kind of like comes to this as now SEO. There's another question.
Yeah, and I think we don't have that much time, so I would say that we got 2 more questions, but let's try to answer it fast before we wrap up. The first one is from William. He asked, did you see websites being more affected by the latest update on mobile SERP compared to desktop? I would say yes, but this is only the case because most of the traffic is coming from mobile.
Yeah.
And most of the websites where we see impact, they're already, as I mentioned, either from health or from financial or user-generated content. And most of the time, users are coming in 70 or 80% from mobile.
Yes.
So, of course, this decreased. But when we look at visibility, it's the same.
No, that's not
true. In my cases, it was really similar.
I analyzed some loser pages. You looked at our clients.
Yeah.
I looked at specifically just the losers. And I've seen that there are many losers who lost more visibility on mobile than the visibility on desktop. So that means they got penalized even more because of having a bad mobile user experience. So that's why I believe mobile has a very high impact, or the updates have a high impact on the mobile visibility when you have that mobile experience too. I think maybe it's even more important than looking at the user experience for desktop.
Thank you, Marcus. And the last question from Veronica. She asked, how would you build a great SEO case when it comes to big corporate websites? It can be struggle sometimes to do any technical updates when it comes to multiple and multilingual websites. Yeah, this is always the case because I think if I can answer this question,
yes.
We worked with a lot of multilingual and multiple websites in many different countries. And of course, as a core structure, especially if they use the same CMS, they use the same website, then you need to prioritize all the technical updates. When it comes to content, you need to know your local audience. So I think this is the largest trick where we see that the website is maybe having international website in US or in UK, which is English one, and which is always as a default in a href-lang structure. Yeah. But all of the other websites get just translated, and they don't really incorporate with the local market. They don't see what is the interest in local. So it's kind of different. I would say on a technical way and also user experience, you need to make sure on a highest level to have a structure that definitely works and that definitely performs. And also on a local structure regarding content and marketing overall, not just content creation, yeah. It needs to be fit to local market.
Yes, and maybe one last trick you should use when you work for a large, big corporate company and their website is kind of like very complex and you have many owners of different parts of the website. So what I've seen on many of our clients that they have all the same struggles, what they try to do is they try to identify the business unit owners, and I mean often you know them, or the owners of certain areas. and then you work with them on a case. So for example, we have one software company we work with. It's a multi-billion-dollar company in the US. And what we did with the SEO is we helped him because they have, I think, 7 or 9 business units. And all these business units are all responsible for their own content. We started working with one to kind of like convince them that, you know, changing some structures or content makes sense. And it was successful. So then the SEO guy or SEO team could convince 3 more teams out of the 7 or 9 it were. And then it became more a thing in the company. Because if you go in and if you just complain, oh, the structure's shitty here, and you have 400x errors here, and you have this and this there, then you don't get someone to listen to you. You need to be more specific. And this is what I believe you should do in a big corporate organization, that you win the ear and heart of the business unit owner, even if it's a small area. But with this area, you can kind of like prove your arguments, and then you kind of like win more listeners within the organization. Yeah,
it's a tricky job. It is not easy. I think the hardest one. So would you like to read this last one? That's what we see with clients, Marcus. It's just a confirmation of what you said. Yeah, I think we are really close to wrap it up because we already used an hour. I'm pretty sure if we stay here, we can use an additional 3 hours of talking about all of the updates. But I really hope that you enjoyed being today with us. And of course, if you missed something, you will find our webinar on YouTube, so you can rewatch it. So if you joined us late or you want to rewatch it again and recap everything, you can watch us on YouTube. And I wish you a good day. And I want to thank Marcus once again for dedicating the time to go through this.
Of course, yeah. It was a pleasure. And if you have more questions, by the way, and thank you, Svetlana, thank you for your time. It was a very pleasurable hour with you here. So, but if you have more questions, we couldn't cover them and we have them, just send them to us. We are thinking about creating a blog post with all the different questions people had or would have, and then create like short snackable content with answers to your questions. So think about it and then shoot us an email or a tweet or whatever you want. And definitely looking forward to catch up with you next time. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.